Hello.
Good morning, ladies and gents, esteemed officials and delegates, members of the media and audience. I am Ishita Guha, and on behalf of National Skill Development Corporation, I extend a warm welcome to all of you. We appreciate you taking time off your busy schedules to join us today. We hope that Charcha 2021 will be a learning and fruitful experience for all of you. Moving on to our first keynote address, which is themed, What Does It Mean to Be Skilled? The keynote intends to set the tone of day 2 at Charcha 2021. The keynote speaker is Professor Dr. Niharika Vora, Vice Chancellor, Delhi Skill and Entrepreneurship University. Dr. Vora is a specialist in behavioral science and has deep experience of working in the corporate sector as a consultant, coach, mentor, and independent director. She has been a professor of organizational behavior at Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, for the past 21 years. May I now request Dr. Vora to come up on stage and begin the keynote address. Over to you, Dr. Vora.
Hi, thank you, Ishita, and welcome all members of the audience. This is still not normal to be able to speak to people who you can't see. So I'm assuming all of you are, comfortable wherever you are, and are committed to this whole discussion on skill development. Now, I'm going to very quickly talk about why is it important to be skilled. It's almost like why should you know how to walk, or why you should know how to talk, all of these things. So, in a way, I'm going to talk about the obvious. Um, I will start off by talking about a number of incidents from my own life that I have very often experienced and observed, and in that process talk about the whole reason why I think we should be skilled. So I think I was seeing a doctor a dentist, because I had some problems with my gums, and he was a very a senior orthodontist, some very special specialist in that, and I went to him and he said, okay, this needs this kind of fixing, and he had somebody who would be actually doing the work. So he would set it up and then somebody would be doing the work. And I would notice that right at the time that this person would be about to finish their work, this doctor who was having conversations with another patient or doing something else and typically really busy would simply stand up, and he'd be next to the doctor who was working on me, and me actually making sure that what was done correctly. I think this is a mark of a very highly skilled dentist. Even though he's not performing the task himself, he has of course done it so many times that while somebody else is doing and he's doing maybe two different other things, he would just know when was the time for him to stand up and give the last touches to what was being done. So skill itself is not just about performing something by your hand. It is in fact the ability of you and yourself to make a judgment about whether something is done or not, whether something needs a little more touch or not. And so that in my mind is what skilling is about, right? Skill is not just about spending 3 months learning something, knowing that I can, do this and this, that work. But in fact, it is about about learning the science behind it, doing it well, and then being able to supervise somebody else who does it, and also to have the judgment to know when is something done and when it is not done. So that's one example of skilling. The second story that I want to say, it's not my personal story, but it's another interesting story that I often like to talk about. And this is where, there was a there was an artist who was commissioned to uh, to sculpt angels on the top of a religious place. And so he charged whatever he needed to charge. He worked on the skilling. He worked on the making of the of the sculpture, and then when the payment had to be made, this person, the contractor who had to make the payment, came to inspect these sculptures. And when he saw that not only had he done something that was front facing perfect, but the back facing was also absolutely perfect. So this contractor said, why did you waste money, right? There's nobody who's going to be able to see the back of it. You should have just done the front. And that's all that is important, and I'm only going to pay you for the front. He said, well, you might only pay me for the front, but for me to have completed something had to be done perfectly. And even if nobody else sees, you see it and I see it. And therefore, the back has to be just like the front has to be. And again, the point I want to make is, to be skilled is to recognize that you just don't do it because somebody pays you for doing this. You do it because it also gives you this satisfaction of having done something well. So it is not always because it is functional, because it is a jugaad, but it is because it really helps you to complete the task. So that is another aspect of skilling. The third part of skilling, and why I think we all need to be skilled, is for something to run perfectly, for something to be able to work well, you need to ensure that there is enough attention paid to detail, and it is done well, not just to look well, but to actually function well. So whether it is the code that you write, whether it is the doctor who's the surgeon, whether it is a plumber, whether it is a railsman, a person working on a rail track, or whether it is when you are performing, somebody who would have designed the air meet, ensuring that everything that you need works perfectly, or it is the event that you're doing. So it is about ensuring that all parts of the piece work together, so that what you need to do gets, why you're doing it, not only looks good, but it actually works for what it is meant to work for. So that again is an extremely important part of is extremely important part of skill development. Excuse me for a second. Giving a talk. Sorry. Excuse me. So again, just give me a second, please. Um, Skilling, what it means to be skilled is to again have the capability to what it means to be skilled is to have the capability to know what is required, who is required for it, and how much is required, and then to ensure that the outcome happens. So now the question that you might ask as a youth or as something is, while I can actually learn something for 3 months, why are we talking about all of this? My thought and what I'm looking at is saying, really, as a skilled person, the country needs skill. The country needs people to be able to work, do something well. Hmm? The you will We will not be able to have an economy with something that runs on jugaad, where I'm only improvising and I'm only working with something because we are believing that it last moment में कुछ करेंगे तो हो जाएगा. Skilling would mean that we are perfect, and we do things that stay for a longer time. And just to again put this in the context, the rice farmers of India, okay, have never, been too concerned if one variety of rice doesn't work, because over the 5,000 years of their rice cultivation, they have become such skilled rice farmers. And this is not just of India, but India, China, Indonesia, all the rice growing countries. There is such fine judgment that has developed in rice cultivation that in fact there are more than 55,000 varieties of rice which will survive in various kinds of environment as they are working on it. So as they work on the rice field, that is skill, right? We need skill to survive. We need skill for excellence. We need skill because that is the only way any economy has ever developed sustainably. Hmm? Uh, we need skill because skill is what ensures personal, community, and the success of the entire world. You might think that I'm overstating my case. However, I'm sure if each one of you just spend a few moments reflecting on what is one of your most significant experiences in any context, in teaching, in receiving education, in receiving a service, in receiving something, it is always, if you go back to it, it will always map back to somebody who's really skilled at what they do. It is about meeting and working with or receiving or being taught or being having a conversation with somebody who is very skilled at what they do. And again, I think one last thing that I would say is that when I am skilled, I also feel passionate about what I do. It is never, somebody who's skilled is never going to be disengaged with their work. When I'm skilled, I take pride in it. I feel engaged with it, and I will always do it well no matter what. And that, I think, is something that is another why we should all learn skill. I get bored with something that I don't like doing or I'm not good at doing. But when I'm good at doing something, I never get bored at it because I continuously do better in that entire process. And that is my reason why I think each person, irrespective of age, irrespective of education, must find something in which they become really, really skilled. So, whether it is cooking, whether it is cleaning, whether it is coding, whether it is being a data analytic, whether it is being a scientist. It is the skill that differentiates you from being a successful or an unsuccessful, from somebody who's satisfied and somebody who's dissatisfied, from somebody who's a producer and somebody who is a non-producer. Skill doesn't mean that you will never fail. You will fail, but you will know how to learn from your failure and do better. So I guess I've finished my 15 minutes. I should stop here. My skill is not just for a job. It's a way of life, and that's why we should be skilled. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr.
I'll end the
Niharika.
session.
As you rightly said, skill is not something that we do for getting a job, but it's a way of life. Thank you for those insightful words and wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thank you.